Let's just sort out the sound, since this was an impromptu. There we go. As usual, I'm extremely organized, so this is a live Q&A chat with zero warning to anybody, which means I'll probably be Q&A'ing myself. So, and one can't do that without drinking some good wine. So I am going to be Q&A'ing myself on the live stream if no one shows up, which is fine. While I don't sleep. I sleep it's about 3 hours on average. Sometimes it's 4. If I get 6 hours straight, that's a really good week. So, oh, this is looked a bit corky. There's a gift from the Crusader who bought a house here recently. There you go, Drumia Cabernet Sauvignon. Not really a red wine drinker, but I mean, if you're not going to drink when you're talking about how female brains work, well, it's just, I don't know what you're doing then in life, doing everything wrong. So, hello Sam, hello Caleb. There's a few of you already popping in, great. While I wait for a couple more of you, salute. Let's see if this Cabernet Sauvignon is any good. Slightly corked, and I say that being an absolute ignorant peasant when it comes to wine. And red wine is not really good for me, and it's always a bit too strong for me, so avert your eyes while I pour some slightly sparkling water in it. And now, the whole point of this live stream is hopefully those of you that have read the blog about the female socio-sexual hierarchy and have any questions, shoot. I'll even take idiot questions. And Andrew wins the prize for the first dumb question. Are we watching Mean Girls to explain the female essence? No, we're not. Because it doesn't explain shit. All that Mean Girls does, which by the way was kind of a funny movie. I quite enjoyed it more than I would have expected to enjoy that kind of chick flick. But it was alright. The guys are like, so yeah. No, I mean the film doesn't explain anything; it just shows their behaviors. Although, on that note, I wrote the blog post and I thought I did a pretty decent job of explaining how the female socio-sexual hierarchy works. And I got a bunch of autists, including a close friend, saying, "But there's no list. It's a very confused post. There's no list." What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, I wrote it in the post that the female, socio-sexual hierarchy works in a very different way from the male one. The male one is, like the one that Vox created. It's got like different categories of people, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and all that. And he's given them all a name and a descriptive thing. And it's like, women don't function that way. The socio-sexual hierarchy of a woman is situation dependent. So the very same, I mean, to a certain extent, men can be too. So, you've got a guy who's an alpha in like 9 times out of 10, but then there's the one thing that he knows nothing about where he's just a delta, and he'll like realizing that if he tried to be an alpha in a thing where he's just crap at, he would look stupid. He will revert to a delta for that specific activity or whatever, because that'll make him still look okay. But mostly a guy who's an alpha is going to be an alpha, a guy who's a gamma is going to be a gamma, that sort of thing. And men are pretty like static, a lot more static in their category, let's say. While women are essentially, women are kind of like minions. They're all kind of the same, Yeah, one's got like one eye, one's got two eyes, one's a bit taller, one's a bit fatter, whatever. But in terms of their social pecking order, it is far more dynamic and fluid than the male one. So, for example, if you're going to the church cake sale, the matronly 65-year-old that's a bit pushy and it looks like crap. She's like a 2 on the 1 to 10 scale, but she's been there for like 40 years and she's like the mother hen of the thing. She's clearly the mother hen of the whole thing, and she's the top dog in that context. Take the same woman, put her in a fancy office party that's thrown by the 40-year-old millionaire construction company owner who invites all his staff, to which, say, her husband works in that business, and so she's invited. And at that place, there are, a dozen sexy women, like in their 20s to 40s. And there's one that's all dressed in red, has got like a suntan and fluffy hair, and she's a really good dancer. And, the boyfriend that she's with is a cool looking tall guy. The frumpy woman becomes invisible. The sexy girl with the red dress and the fancy hair, it becomes the queen of the ball. But put the sexy woman in the church context, and she's a nobody. She's a dirty little slut that doesn't dress appropriately, and everybody shuns her. So that's how the female socio-sexual hierarchy works. And what I explained in the blog post is how to quantify or how to realize where each woman is in the pecking order in a dynamic environment while it's happening. And it's once you get this concept in your head, it's really quite simple. Sam is asking a thing about the olive oil project. Yes, I have started, but it's unfortunately getting olive oil to the United States is not a simple matter. There's like all sorts of import-export things, and it's to the UK. I think I'll be able to navigate that fairly recently. It's probably not going to go live in the next week or so, because I've sent out like a test package to a couple of people, but it's not a sustainable way of doing it. And sorry to divert from the female social sexual hierarchy, but I know people want to know about the olive oil. I don't know when that will. There's a guy that might be interested in becoming a distributor in the United States, and I think I can manage it in the UK fairly quickly. But there's some things that need to be put in place and tested and checked. So it's unfortunately going to be a little while longer. Anyway, getting back to the social sexual hierarchy, the way that you figure out where the female pecking order is, and keep in mind what's the purpose of this female social sexual hierarchy, or a male one for that matter. It's to show, to be able to predict what's going to happen. The whole point of having the social sexual hierarchy is to predict the behavior. Now, any man that says that he can absolutely predict with confidence the behavior of women, is either a liar or he's crazy. Most of the time he's a liar who's like a pickup artist to make you want to think that, oh, he can figure out, and it's bullshit. But my method of figuring out the social sexual hierarchy can be predictive of female behavior to worst case scenario, definitely well over 50%. I would say even in difficult scenarios, if you become used to using this concept, you're still going to predict things accurately to about 75%, I would say, even in a pretty complicated context. If it's a simple context, like average IQ women, say like 100 IQ females in a relatively normal sort of environment, you can predict that all very very accurately, a lot more than 75%. I'm talking about an environment where you're talking with like particularly attractive, particularly intelligent women, and there's a group of them, then it can be quite complicated. So, just to give a, yeah, Caleb gets it. He says there's no lists because the variables are constantly changing. Exactly. Um, and Sam Wereb says Mean Girls is very funny in a voyeuristic kind of way. One thing I found really interesting about Mean Girls was how the main girl, Lindsay Lohan, I think it is, um, how she gets instant sort of status or instant uh, value in the hierarchy, simply because she's been in Africa. She grew up in a different way. And the fact is that I actually had that upbringing. We had lions at home and like monkeys and baboons, and we had a crazy sort of upbringing. And when I first came to Europe, and I wasn't using it and I wasn't telling people about it, whatever, but they'd ask, and I'd mention a few things here or there, and it absolutely had that effect because people were like, "Oh, this guy like had lions in his house," and it's like I didn't even tell them about this because they just dug at, thinking they would make a joke. They'd be like, "Oh, what, you had lions in your house?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, we did. We raised them, kind of when they were little, and then when they got big, we gave them back to the lion park." And oh, did you have a swimming pool at your house? Well, yeah, everybody's got a swimming pool, where we live there. So it was, um, so I could relate to that aspect of it very much. Although it's a different scenario, different dynamics. But the thing that um, so to break down for those of you that maybe haven't read the blog, the factors that you need to consider when you're trying to figure out what the hierarchy is of a group of women in any given situation is, first of all, the situation itself. And guys, fire out questions if you're interested in this, or if you're not, it's fine. Just tell me, we'll talk about something else. But I got quite a bit of mail and text messages and stuff about this thing, so there is an interest out there. So I thought I'd do a quick stream on it. So the situation itself, because again, like I said, I made example of the church bake sale or whatever, and the office cocktail party, the two very different environments. The environment itself will tend to give the frame, let's say, of what the hierarchy looks like. The second point is the attractiveness of each woman in the interaction, and I do mean this on the standard 1 to 10 scale of how attractive a woman is. I know that's somewhat subjective because like what's a 9.5 to me might be an 8 to someone else, or a 10 to someone else, or whatever. But generally speaking, men know what I mean by like a 1 to 10. Women, incidentally, are usually quite crap at evaluating other women on the 1 to 10 scale because of their solipsism, and we'll get to that. So the two main things are the situation, the attractiveness of the woman on the 1 to 10 scale of each woman in the interaction. And then these are two realizations that you must make. And the first one is that women process the world mostly according to their emotions. They don't process the world in a logical fashion or in a dialectic fashion. They process it in a emotional fashion for the most part. Obviously it's it's on a sliding scale and there are exceptions and whatever, but mostly it's they process the world through their emotions. It's filtered through their emotions, not through rationality, not through logic, not through math. Most important of all is point number 4. Women are absolutely solipsistic, and that means that they essentially they believe that the entire universe is there for them. Everything is about them. If the weather is bad, it's because God is being disrespectful to them. If the weather is good and the way they want it, it's because they are loved by the universe, of course, because they're beautiful and charismatic, and and of course, if you are the man in their life and it's raining, not only is God being disrespectful to her, but you're obviously not sympathizing enough with her pain, especially if you're the kind of guy like me that says it's the fucking weather, get over it. Because then you're obviously an evil, insensitive pig who doesn't understand that she wanted to wear her sexy sundress and she wanted to do that for you. She wanted to do it for herself, but she wanted to do it for you so that she would feel good about herself, because you would, it's about her. But she would blame you for not understanding that she wanted to wear that sexy sundress for you and you're not appreciating of her, and there's an argument right there. So the solipsism is how they process information at a core level, and every woman is like this. It's biological and whatever. And by the way, if any of these things that I'm saying, if you're a woman and you get pissed off and you think that I'm like some kind of women hater or whatever, you're just wrong. You're an idiot and you're wrong, and you're just going to have to learn to control your emotions better, or leave the channel. If you're a man and you think, this guy's got it all right, he knows women are dogs, they don't understand, you're an idiot. If you get upset at the fact that women are solipsistic or that they process the world through their emotions, you're a fool. You might as well get angry at the weather, like women tend to do, or the fact that, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, or that the sky is blue. You might as well get upset about frogs jumping. It's just retarded. It is how it is. Face reality. Being a man essentially means being able to evaluate the objective universe. And if you do that at the even tiniest level, as a man, that the objective universe doesn't give a flying rat's ass about you, pretty much anything else. Yes, God is love, but if that piano falls from the 5th floor on your head, you're dead. If you don't understand that, in cave time days, you go out in the snow without wearing your pelt, you die, well, guess what? You die, and those genes don't get passed on. So the objective universe doesn't give a shit about you. And frankly, when it comes to operational effectiveness, neither do other men. Neither does anyone. Which is why there is the saying, a man is born alone and dies alone. Because pretty much we do. If you're lucky, you get a couple of friends that in a moment of need or in a moment of necessity or harshness or good times, they really get you and you get them, and that's about as close as you can get. A woman can love you, your children can love you, but essentially a man in one way or another is always ultimately alone, and make your peace with that and be okay with it. Know that God loves you and that's enough. So keep in mind these things. If you keep in mind all of these things at the same time, which it takes a bit of practice, it doesn't necessarily come instinctively to men, you will be able to predict how women will act. I've made a couple of funny examples on the blog, where I discuss, like, for example, how even just two women in an interaction where you've got your good buddy with his pretty wife coming over for dinner, and I think in the blog, I think I named her Jennifer, just whatever, and but let's just say that Jennifer is a 9, because you've got cool friends, Jennifer and Brad. Let's say Brad's a quiet guy, he's a cool dude, you're good friends with him. Jennifer's a hottie, she's a 9. Your wife is an 8.5. Objectively, let's just be objective. You don't give a shit because you're not into Brad's wife, even though she's a 9, because her personality is different. She's your buddy's wife, so you don't even really think that way if you're a cool dude, and so on. But your wife, she notices it, and and let's say Jennifer on that day is particularly funny, and or you are, it's a good dinner. You guys are laughing, and your wife notices that Jennifer laughs at all your jokes. Even the ones that she's heard before, even the ones that your wife's heard 20 times before, Jennifer just laughs at her, and you smiled at Jennifer twice. So that whore is obviously trying to steal her husband, and you dirty pig, you want to fuck her, clearly. You're just waiting for Brad to go to the kitchen so you can bang her right here on the table. Disrespectful to your own wife. That's what's going on in her head, because remember, it's all about her. So if Jennifer laughs at your jokes, Jennifer is like giving attention to her man. Her man. Jennifer, the bitch, is trying to get attention to her man. And if you smile at Jennifer a couple of times, well, you're looking at her. Why are you looking at her? Why are you smiling at her? It's all about your wife. Remember, for your wife, it's all about her. And then it's emotional, right? So she's not going to be just like, oh, I'm just going to let this slide. She's going to be like, can't control it. She's just going to be like, Jennifer, would you like some coffee? It's getting pretty late, you know. So you go to the kitchen to help her make coffee maybe, and you're like, hey, babe. Normal guy, you know, this is what I said. Normal guy goes like, hey, babe, that's a bit fucking rude. Are you like chasing them out? What's wrong? And now you've got an argument on your hands because your wife is like, oh, bastard. He wants to stay on. The pig. Oh, I'll tell him, I'll just go to sleep so you can fuck her on the table then. And she storms off. And you're like, what the fuck just happened, right? But if you understand how this social sexual hierarchy thing works, you'd be like, oh, you'd notice what's going on. And while your wife's getting up to make coffee, you say, hey, come here, babe. You grab her, you give her a kiss right in front of everybody. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. You know, had a little bit of a drink. And actually, I can't wait for you guys to get home. Because, man, my wife's hot. Problem solved. In fact, now, even if Jennifer was, let's say Jennifer was trying to go for you. Let's say she had that, you know, maybe didn't want to bang you on the table, but, you know, she was kind of flirting just to assert her position. Now Jennifer is like, oh, fuck. Brad doesn't do that to me, not in front of other people. And now she's like dropped in position. So within 5 minutes, it can be like Jennifer was up here, now your wife's up here. And that's why the female social sexual hierarchy is very dynamic. And that's just a little example, but that's what it is. So let me just quickly catch up. Nationalist says, American women all seem to hate each other and eat anti-dependents like Skittles. I think he meant antidepressants there. So, American women are particularly infected with the solipsism and the irrationality of emotionalism to a degree that is much higher than most other cultures on the planet. And I've recently done a blog post about ideology and so on, which actually, funnily enough, it's got nothing to do with the social sexual hierarchy, but touches on this very topic because, and again, I'm not trying to be offensive to our American friends, but Americans are the most gullible people on the planet. It's not really their fault. Their country was created by Freemasons from the start on Freemasonic principles, and have been, you know, brainwashed from day one. So, but the female, you know, the American dynamic is American exceptionalism is it. We're the best. America's the coolest thing. They're essentially ignorant, maleducated, malnourished. Not as in that they're starving, but they're just fed crap, literal, actual poisonous shit most of their life, which doesn't help your brain activity. And the women are particularly frustrated on any number of things because, to put it in a nutshell, the American life is the most plastic, the most fake, the most artificial, the most unnatural of lives of all the cultures on planet Earth. And, you know, there's a reason for that, of course. America is really controlled not by the actual Americans, but, you know, by the people that run the deep state, and we all know who those guys are. So you're kind of hosts to a parasitic class of people that are taking advantage of you, but it is what it is. And the human soul rebels against artificiality and fakeness in every aspect of life. And because the American lifestyle is so plastic and fake in pretty much every aspect of life, you know, the average American is actually a very unhealthy person from a mental, spiritual, emotional point of view. And I'm not saying that there are other people that aren't, you know, or that are even worse off, sure. You know, would you rather be like a fat, somewhat unhappy American, or, you know, a starving Somalian or whatever? You know, there's worse things you can have in life for sure. But you know, and I'm speaking in very broad generality, so don't get upset. You know, try to contain yourselves, emotional people. But as a result of that, and women are especially sensitive to this fakeness. That's why, women treat gammas like radioactive pestilence, because they can sense the fakeness. They can sense the artificiality. They can sense the pickup artist who's just like, reading off a cue card to try and impress her rather than actually being a genuine human being. And as a result of that, women tend to go more insane if they're surrounded by fakeness, if they're surrounded by lies, they're surrounded by substandard sex. Women tend to lose their mind. And America being the most fake country on earth, it it only follows that the women are unhealthily bitter, angry at each other, angry at life themselves, unhappy, in general terms. And they'll make absolute, not just mountains, they'll make chains of Himalayan mountains out of furuncles, out of little tiny, bumps in the road. So yeah, that's unfortunately how it is. Nationalist says, emotional thinkers voting. What could go wrong? Well, I've been saying since about age 16 that men have evolved over the last few hundred years, a couple hundred years at most, from like pretty manly man, brutish kind of guys. They've evolved in terms of being more sensitive and more understanding, and just at a very simple level. Neither my father nor my grandfather ever even thought of changing one nappy in any of the children they had, nor did they ever do it. And it wasn't because they didn't care or they were, just being misogynist pigs or whatever. It was just like, wasn't part of a man's like things. I've changed nappies on all my kids, and as has my brother. Um, and again, it's not because I'm somehow, mollified or like, oh yes, dear. Again, check with my wife if you don't believe me. But I do it because I kind of want to do it. It's my kid. I love my kid. It's I don't have a problem doing it at all. Um, and the kids absolutely, they run to me for injuries. Any like blood pops out, it's like dad's the solution. Pain, injuries, that sort of thing. Go to dad. Dad's the surgeon. So like serious shit, you run to dad. Um, but don't bother dad with like minor crappy nonsense, because it's just like, don't even bother. If you're fighting about who's gonna get to like use this toy, it's like neither of you. Get the hell out and go play with a stick. So, but it's just kind of how it is. Like men have evolved, but women haven't. And in fact, to a large extent, women have somewhat devolved. They're the worst aspects of the female of the species have come out more and have been encouraged. And this has been intentional. And again, I kind of blame men for this situation, because if you're the leaders, if you're the men, why did you allow that to happen? Why did you allow lies and filth and nonsense to reduce women to a state where they are actually, less capable, less happy? And they are, by the way. The data from around the world, meta studies from every country, have absolutely demonstrated that feminism and the so-called liberation of women and all that leads to less happiness for the average woman, by like large difference, large variances. I was actually just saw on Telegram today a very very good looking woman saying, I don't want to work. I want to be a housewife. I want to make sandwiches for my husband. I want him to come home and be like, oh, gee, babe, did you cook all this? And be like, yeah, I did. It was a really cute little thing. It says, I would, be happy to be the homemaker and the cook and look after the kids. A very hot looking woman. Now, is she doing it for attention? Sure, because remember, she's solipsistic, right? So do you believe every word that she says in that little thing? No. But hey, how many likes is she gonna get from like guys that are like, oh, can you marry me? Thousands. And that'll make her feel good. And then she'll be like, oh, look at me. And she's now higher in the pecking order, even with her feminist friends, because if the feminist friends go like, Jessica, I saw that like, internalized misogyny that you produced when you said that you want to be a housewife, Jessica can just go, especially if there are other men around. Well, Jane, I'm sorry you feel that way. But I just want to be a traditional wife. And every man, especially the way this woman looks, in a 50-meter radius would be like, could I buy you a drink? Are you single? They would like flock to her, like, I don't know what. I was going to say flies to shit, but now, the flies sometimes buzz around. This would just be like an instant siege, which would, of course, send Jane into a spiral of like depression and hatred. Um, but if now you put Jennifer, or Jessica, sorry, the hottie that wants to be a traditional wife, in an all-female only group where they're, I don't know, some female march for women's rights or whatever, and now for whatever reason, she takes her own turn and she ends up in that thing. Jessica's going to be very, very quiet, and she's not going to mention that. And if she does, she'll be stomped by all the other women, and she'll just be like, shrink away and leave and think, oh, they're all bitches. That's what she'll say when she gets home. So, again, depends on the situation, right? I hope I've made it quite clear. So, I don't know. Tell me if there's any questions on it. Let's see what you got. Low T men are emotional thinkers as well. Yeah, well, the gamma essentially are so, disgusting to men and women because they behave. They're not a woman, but they kind of behave in the same sort of underhanded and not direct way. And Wooly Ram says, you don't get angry at an autist for missing a joke. You don't get angry at a woman for being self-centered. Well, there are limits, there are levels, because solipsism can quite easily start to descend into selfish egotism, and that can quickly run down the slope of absolute narcissism. And let me tell you, boys, if you have not met a narcissistic woman, thank God every day. Look in the mirror, and even if you're a disfigured goblin, thank the Lord that you've not had such an experience. You might be intimating that I might have some inkling of this sort of. Cheers. In BBG Gaming 3801 says, hi guys, I'm new, subscribed, and liked. Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. I think I've got like 2 subscribers or something. So your whatever questions you get, dude, like super chats or whatever, will be answered fully. And Sam Werb says, Kurgan, I don't care about the male or female sexual hierarchy, but you said you'd entertain any question. Do you keep dogs or cats in your house? We have some cats around, not in the house. No, we've got like, there's too many kids and the house is messy enough as it is. I don't want to have to train them. And because they're kind of like semi-feral cats, they can have, fleas or ticks or whatever, so they stay outside. If I did get a dog, he would also stay outside. My family has always had pets. We've had all sorts of pets, and they've both been indoor pets and outdoor pets. But I've made a decision a while back that I love my dogs, and I would have no problem with it. But they'd be outside dogs, big ones. I don't like little dogs. They would have a nice, little shelter, so they're not cold or anything like that. But they would be outside dogs. Nationalist says, agree with everything you said about America. Thank you, sir. You see, this is the, and you've been on the chat quite regularly, so I kind of got a sense about you. This is one of the few rare human beings, including men, left that can actually change their mind based on observable facts. And by the way, in the long time ago of Sparta, ancient Greece, Roman times, most men were kind of men that can change their mind based on facts. Although Aristotle noted 2,500 years ago that some people cannot have their mind changed regardless of the facts that you put before them. So unfortunately, they, brain damaged, or whatever you want to call them, the apes of Planet of the Apes were there right from the beginning. And unfortunately, they managed to continue reproducing. But one of the pivotal concepts of being a man is actually being able to notice the objective universe around you and make objective evaluations of reality so that you can change your mind based on the observable factual evidence before you. If you're not able to do that because of your entrenched belief system that Protestantism is correct, or the King James Bible made by the gay king that started satanic temples known as Freemason lodges is the best Bible because you were taught that, well, you're not a man. Insofar as you're incapable of changing your mind based on factual, observable, objective evidence in front of you, you're a weak, desperate failure as a man. Just putting it out there, in my dulcet tones as usual. Sam Wereb says, you'll read this long after I wrote it, but I sometimes wish that Euros understood that Americans are nothing like what they think they know about us. Projection at all. No, it's not projection, Sam. I've been to the States. I know the States quite well. I've spent enough time there, and I know enough people from America, and I've met Americans both. I've spent time in America itself, various states, and I met and dealt with Americans outside of America as well. And I've done this with a number of nationalities. As you may know, I have traveled quite extensively around the world and spent years in different countries and so on. I'm not wrong, and I'm not projecting. And again, I said it's a general, summation, but it's generalities are still facts. Generalities are valid things. If I say that during the day the sky is mostly blue, it's true. Sometimes it's pink, sometimes it's orange, occasionally it's green, but the sky is mostly blue. It's a generality and it's a fact. It's an objective, unarguable fact. And the things I've said about Americans, again, I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm not trying to upset you. They're facts. They're generalities, but they're facts. Now, are there some brilliant Americans that are cool, smart, Yeah, obviously. Sure. There might even be a Polish guy like that. You know what I'm saying? It's the fact that you get upset about a generality that is a fact tells us something about you. It doesn't tell me anything, and doesn't tell anybody that is objective anything about Americans. So Caleb says, my wife made pasta with homemade Alfredo sauce and shrimp. She's an absolute treasure, and she makes awesome sandwiches. That's a great wife. Personally, I don't like any seafood with my pasta. I'm not a big pasta eater anyway, but my seafood should be seafood. And my pasta, if I'm going to eat any, should be pasta. And never shall the two meet. I don't like seafood flavored pastas. But, de gustibus non est disputando, as my ancient Roman ancestors used to say. There is no accounting for taste, nor judgment of it. So, woolly ram, to not be a subspecies of rat, dogs need to be at least mid-shin high. Knee-high is preferable. Absolutely. Woolly ram understands. A dog is dog-sized, and a rat is rat-sized, and anything rat-sized is pretty much a rat. Now, you might try and argue that just because a table has 4 legs and a dog has 4 legs, that doesn't mean a table is a dog. But something rat-sized, most often than not, unless it's a cat, it's a rat. Now, completely shifting topic, unless you guys want to keep going and of course ask, and if I wasn't clear on how to use the female socio-sexual hierarchy to predict female behavior, please go ahead and ask. But another topic that's been weighing unduly heavily on my mind lately partly as a result of the post I did on the female sexual hierarchy, socio-sexual hierarchy, was the absolutely pervasive and worrying inability of the average person to read and comprehend. I have that with like even close friends where they read something either I wrote or somebody else wrote, and it's like they get half of it wrong and they make the other half up based on what they think instead of what's written down. By the way, this also is very much female behavior. Like, if you ever get this opportunity to like watch two women that are good friends talk about anything, when two women that are really engaged in the topic they're discussing, or three or four women, same thing, but it's easier if it's just two of them because then you can really focus. But just pay attention to this. When two women talk to each other about anything, usually the topic will be men, but if you're standing right there and you're seeing one of them, they'll tend to avoid that topic while you're there. But it really doesn't matter what they're talking about. They'll usually be gossiping about somebody else, or talking about some other woman or something like that, or a relationship they have with their work colleagues or something, some banal stuff. Watch two women talking at each other when they're both passionate to some degree about whatever the topic is. It is fucking astonishing. Two men that watch this together and see what's going on would just be like mesmerized. They'd be looking at each other like this, going, "Are you seeing that?" The other guy would be like, "Oh, why? What am I talking about?" One woman will say, "And I went to work with the green shoes, the green shoes I got, the really cool green shoes, with the green pants because they're coordinated. And you know what? Jennifer was wearing the same green trousers, but she had aquamarine shoes." And now Mary, whatever, would be laughing like, "Oh no, oh that's so tragic. Oh, I can't believe it because, and did the blouse match?" No, her blouse was yellow. I say, "Oh, well, then, that's fine." Because, like, I had a yellow blouse. Yellow goes with aquamarine, and it's kind of different because then, and then I'll be like, "But, the trousers were the same. They were the same green thing." Oh, haha, I laugh. But the aquamarine actually goes well with yellow. And, yeah, no, I know aquamarine goes well with yellow. But, it disturbed me because the red shoes, I got them specifically for those green trousers. And the other one will be like, "Yeah, but it's okay because you can always wear them with the yellow blouse." Do you understand what in this idiotic conversation I just had? Can you see what's happening? They're talking past each other. Absolutely. She's the one is talking about her green trousers and how it upset her because the green trousers go with the green shoes. The other one is trying to discuss how the green trousers can... She's not even talking about the green trousers. She's saying how the aquamarine goes with yellow and it's not quite the same as green. So they're just talking right past each other. They're not even on the same fucking subject. But one of them is making excited noises and nodding, pretending that she's listening to what the other one is saying. And the other one is doing the same thing. So it's like, great! She's listening to me and I'm having so much fun. Neither of them realizes that the other one is only talking about whatever the fuck she's got in her head, because guess what the other one is doing? She's only talking about what she's got in her head. And she's imagining all the other shit that her friend is saying relates to everything that she's got in her head. Because remember, solipsism, it's all about me. Two men talking about that would be like, "Dude, if you ever behave that way to me, I will shoot you in the face." To which the other man would say, "And I would want you to." Because if I'm talking to a dude, it doesn't matter, again, what the topic is. I'd be like, I've been writing about the 45 versus the 357 Magnum. The 45 Colt 911, the 357 Magnum revolver. I carried always the 357 Magnum revolver, but I'm thinking maybe, the 45, and I've never had one. Maybe I would like to carry that more. What would my friend say? I've got a 45, never had a 357. I kind of get what you're coming from, though, because I'm kind of the opposite as you. Never owned a 357, but I like them. I like that, it's a revolver. It can't go wrong. And 357 is not big caliber. Hits hard. 45 is big caliber, but it's, a bit slower, less penetration. And it's a semi-auto. You never know. Something could go wrong. We're on the same fucking topic. He's never owned the gun I had. I've never owned the gun he had. But we are right there, man. We're learning from each other. And I ask him, oh, what's the 45? Do you carry cocked and locked? Is that dangerous? What do you think? Like, never had a problem. Carried cocked and locked all my life. Of course, mustn't be an idiot, but same topic. We're on the same track. He says something. I respond to what he said. I process what he said. I replied based on what he said, on my personal experience, add to it. We grow. Women? No such fucking thing. She's talking about her green trousers. The other one is talking about her aquamarine matches with green shoes. They're happy. Is there any evolution here? No. Again, it's a generalism, but I'm not wrong. So yeah. Sam says true, and I'm not upset, but we have no more control of our government or its foreign policy than Euros do of theirs. I would disagree with you. I would say that Americans have probably even less control of their government and foreign policy. But I'm not talking about your government or your foreign policy. I'm talking about average American in, Joe Blogs. Don't get me wrong. The average American, Joe Blogs, the guy who doesn't have a passport and doesn't know that Australia is not a triangle somewhere near Hawaii, that American, let me tell you his positive things. He's friendly. He's genuine. He's kind of childishly innocent in a good way. He's like, oh, you stuck with your car? No problem, man. I'll give you a lift to where? 200 miles? Well, it's a bit out of my way, but we're a big country and you're a foreigner. I want to give a good impression of my country to you. They're good guys. Unless you're talking about, business people like traders, New Yorkers, whatever, that they're another species. But I'm the average American in whatever rural buttfuck Montana, salt of the earth guy, I'm sure. 9 times out of 10, if not 9.9 times out of 10. That people are people. Like, if you, I hesitate to say it, but possibly even the average rural Australian might be okay. Their genetics of Australians, where they come from, it's a bit different. But there's all Australians pissed off right now. You know what I'm saying, right? It's the average American, for all that he's brainwashed and in many, many respects and maleducated and all the other stuff I've said before, he's a genuine guy. He's a good guy. And when you get an American that has pulled himself out of the zeitgeist that he is marinated in from birth, they can be awesome guys. Like some redneck people I know are some of the best people on earth. They're like really cool guys. Don't take any shit. They're good people. So I know what you mean by real America, but statistics are a thing and they work, and maths is maths. Like the average Italian, if I was going to make a comparison, the average Italian is a poser who talks a lot and talks the talk and doesn't walk the walk, and he's more worried about matching his socks to his tie, and especially in the more shall we say, what would you say, the more industrialized areas. I've got the latest Armani jacket with the coordinated Gucci shoes or whatever the fuck, and they're bullshitters in many respects. There is a core that is generally stronger in Europeans than in Americans, where if you put them really back against the wall, the average Italian is eventually gonna react more like our ancestors than the average American. Also, probably because the average American doesn't really know what his ancestors were and doesn't have a very strong connection to it. But if you're talking about, the real hardcore Italians, like you're talking about real hardcore Americans, the real hardcore Italian is like my neighbor. That guy was a saint, and he didn't mince his words. It was absolutely brutally frank and honest, and a guy I would have stood next to in a trench even if we were doomed to death. Awesome dude. And I'm sure America has their counterpart of that. And I'm sure, I've met them. I know some of these people. So, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just saying the generality is still, most people are idiots. It's a generality, but it's absolutely true about the whole of planet Earth. So, okay, says more than two women talking at once sounds like a nightmare. Actually, no. I've been I've had many situations where I was either the only guy or one of maybe two guys in a gaggle of women, and usually very hot ones for a number of reasons. I've always had hot girlfriends. They in turn have hot friends, and I mean the funniest example of that I can present was I used to throw parties at my house like randomly for stray dog type people. At Christmas, all the people didn't have family or whatever. I'd say, okay, you each bring something. Let's coordinate who brings what, and you guys do the washing up because I'm not touching that fucking dishes. I've got a maid. I'm a man. I don't go in the kitchen unless it's to take something out of the fridge. So you guys do all the washing up and pretty much most of the cooking. But you can host at my house. I had a big nice apartment on the Thames. It kind of became a bit of a tradition. And now and then I'd throw a party with like random people I just didn't know very well, whatever, just because I'm curious and see what happened. So the one time I invited a couple of girls and I said, we could throw a party at my place. As it happens, these girls are strippers. I wasn't going out with any of them. We were actually just friends. We met at a seminar and they sort of said, "Oh, that sounds cool. Can we bring some girlfriends?" And I was like, "Hey, the more the merrier. I don't care." So what about boyfriends? And I said, "Really, I don't care." I said, "No, but what if we just bring girlfriends? Is that okay? And maybe like you're single." And I was like, "I am single-ish, as in not committed to anybody, and I don't lie to the women I'm seeing, but it's not like I'm lonely. But yeah, sure, bring your friends, whatever." And it ended up none of them brought their boyfriends. Um, I think there was one guy who because I'd invited a few guys, but I didn't know really who was coming. So the guys, like most of the guys, like sort of canceled. One guy that came, turns out I found out later that guy was bi and was really coming to see me, and I am totally oblivious to this. And he was kind of hoping to get something going with me, and he ended up like doing a thing with my sister that lived at the time with me, but he was trying to like force himself out of what he was, I think. And it was nine strippers. So it was nine strippers, me, this like bi guy that I didn't know was bi, my sister, and so it was just women. And within minutes, I mean, they started talking as women do, and it was fascinating. It was hilarious. I was very well entertained, and again, it had nothing to do with sex. I didn't do anything with these women or whatever. It was just funny and it was fun. The closest thing to a sexual thing that happened was like in my place, I was kind of Japanese, Like when people come in, I tell them to take their shoes off because I had nice carpeting and I don't want to fucking trail dog shit and spit and whatever you stepped on outside. So I had a big cart as soon as you stepped in, all the shoes are there. So like the girls came in and they all like some of them just came in like a t-shirt and jeans and some of them were like pretty fancily dressed. But whatever it was, like, put your shoes out there. And so then on their way out or something, one of the girls, and they were all obviously very attractive because that was their job. They were stripping for money. One of the girls saw like I've got a pair of shoes which I still have, which are like they're made out of like jeans with like red sort of flowery stuff like embroidered on them. And most guys, especially most Americans, would say, "Oh, that's a gay shoe," and I'm like, I love those shoes. I wear them. I don't give a flying fuck what anybody thinks. And they look good to me. They always attract some comments, usually from women, by the way. And I don't have any kind of a gay vibe, so it's not an issue. But like one of the girls was like, "Oh, I love these shoes. I'm gonna take them," and she like just bent down, picked them up, and in that kind of sexy way that hot women do, that they think they can get away with it, she like kind of puts them in her bag, half joking, but hey, if I don't say anything. And as she was bent over putting in her bag, I like slapped her ass, and I was like, don't you steal my fucking shoes. All her friends like burst out laughing, and the one girl that I'd invited originally, a very very pretty girl, she looked like, oh, it's like, because the whole time on some level all the women were like, this guy's not actually hitting on us. He's literally actually just enjoying watching us talk and talk crap, and the stuff that women will say when they're with each other and they don't feel like, oh, the guy's like some kind of creep. Man, the stuff they came up with was just like, I can't repeat them on you, I'll get banned. But it was fun. Anyway, so the one girl that thought like, oh, he slapped her on the ass, he's kind of like, and the girl that was like pretending to steal my shoes, she looks up, turns around at me, and there was an instant little connection. She goes, you must have been waiting all night to do that to me, weren't you? And I realized, oh, she's actually now like flirting with me, which I wasn't. And I was like, not really, but if you're into that, my bedroom's just over there. Don't know if your friends want to watch or not. And they laughed it off, and they all left and whatever. It was, I just had a quick comeback because I'm quick witted, but that was it. But it was one of the best parties I had, and it had nothing to do with the sex or with me getting with any of these girls or anything like that. They're really entertaining. So although more than two women talking at once, if you're actually trying to have a conversation with somebody else or even with one of the women, I agree with you. It's painful. But if you're just like, hey, look what up, it's kind of like you take a bunch of hand grenades and you throw them all inside a drum. I mean, which guy doesn't want to see what happens? It's kind of cool, So, that's all I got to say to that. Willie Ram says, how do women grow mature? Does their solipsism diminish with time, or does it expand and start including some pieces of reality? It depends on the woman. Like, basically, women, unfortunately, tend to evolve only as a result of hard knocks. That's true of most human beings, men or women. Uh, you get plenty of warning, you get plenty of signs about stuff, and if you keep ignoring them, eventually, man upstairs goes, well, better up, boom, and you get whacked in the head, and like your life kind of goes to shit for a little while until you learn what you need to learn. And if you don't, well, another bat's coming up. So women tend to learn, unfortunately, mostly by that way. And it is, again, part of their biology, unfortunately, so it can't be helped. But the smarter ones, the intelligent ones that are a little bit self-reflective can make strides, but it's always an intensely personal journey. A man can learn from other people's mistakes. Women, in my experience, hardly ever learn anything good or useful from other people's mistakes. What tends to happen when a woman sees another woman or a man or whatever make a big mistake, they tend to internalize that in terms of like, I would never do that, and not actually learn the lesson, because just because I wouldn't do certain things doesn't mean that that I can't learn from somebody else's. For example, I'm trying to give you context so that you know what I'm saying. Otherwise, it just sounds like I'm babbling. But if those of you that have seen the film American History X with Peter Norton, I think, where he like curb stomps a black dude and kills him. Primarily, yeah, the black guy was trying to steal his car, or whatever, but primarily because he hates blacks, and he's like the kind of racism level that is based on ideology, not on any like really objective. Um, I'm not saying there aren't objective reasons to like whatever, but anyway, the point about American History X is I've never behaved, and I wouldn't behave like the character in the film played by Peter Norton. Is that his name? Oh, I forget what his name is. But anyway, the main actor, the neo-Nazi guy, the guy that was playing the neo-Nazi guy, I've never behaved in that way. It's not part of my reality and whatever. And I don't frankly give a shit if if I'm going to be curb stomping somebody, it'll be because of something they did, and it'll be absolutely irrelevant to me what ethnicity, nationality, or whatever the fuck else. I don't care. Um, and again, I'm not doing the boomer thing where it's like, oh, I don't see color. I see everything, but there's weights and values to give to things. And but that film was a very spiritual film, believe it or not, because at the end, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear this, close your ears. Edward Norton, thank you. Um, the I, Throughout that film, I was watching this and thinking, if there's going to be any decent film, this guy has to evolve. Something has to happen to evolve him. What the fuck's it going to be? And then he ends up in jail, and he kind of evolves, and he comes out, and I'm like, okay, so he's evolved, but where's the justice? If again, keep in mind, I wasn't in any respect Catholic or Christian at this time, but I understood that there is an intelligence behind reality, and I understood that justice is a thing. But like, if this film is going to be any good, there's got to be some justice. There's got to be some pain coming to this guy. But I was thinking, that the problem with that is, where's that thing? The problem with that is that this guy is immune to pain. He's immune to, like, because he knows he's done wrong, and he knows how wrong he's done. He can lose both his legs and it'll be like, yeah, I deserve it, and he won't learn anything from it. So what happens is his little brother gets killed. And that's the payback, right? Because again, even when I wasn't Catholic, I understood this about reality. Even when you repent, you still have to pay for your sins, which is why purgatory, right? And watching that, I understood that, like, well, if I don't learn these lessons, the repercussions don't just affect me. The only way that God can evolve people like me is by kicking my ass, by hurting people I love. And they'll have their own reason why they need to go through that, but I don't want to be a part of that. I think it's almost impossible for a woman to make that sort of realization by watching what ultimately is a fake experience, right? Because it's a film, it's not even a real era. Um, yeah, okay says, yeah, it's like the sins of the father type story arc, exactly. And I don't think women can learn that way. What I think can happen is that a woman can learn from her own mistakes and her own hard knocks. She can learn more than just from that specific thing, and she can extend it a bit and learn beyond that and expand it. Um, and there's always the unicorn. I posted on my little group of friends I have this it's a little piece of writing about this girl that says, when she was in school, there used to be this girl that used to ask really dumb fucking questions in class, and everybody thought she was retarded because she would ask like the stupidest questions about the simplest things. But then when she did exams, she always scored highly. She really got good marks. And everybody couldn't stand her because they're like, oh, she must be cheating, including the teachers. The teachers thought she was cheating because it's like she asked such stupid questions throughout the day. There's no fucking way that, she's actually this smart. Otherwise, she wouldn't ask the dumb questions. And so this girl watched her throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, towards the end of the year, they were going to leave. They were going to go to different schools. So she was curious. And she was like, but, I said, I wanted to befriend her just to find out what the fuck's her story. Is she cheating or what? And she realized, she noticed by just observing her, she noticed that this girl only really hung around with one other girl. She only really had one other friend. And then she got to know her and they started talking. And eventually this girl admitted to her that, no, she asked the stupid questions for her friend because her friend has got like serious social anxiety. She doesn't have any friends and she's too shy to ask the questions. So they've figured out a system where she writes down the questions she wants to ask and her friend will ask her. And her friend never breathed a word that she was doing it for her friend, never told anybody. And she took all the shunning from their whole class, from the teachers, didn't give a shit because she was smart anyway and she passed all her exams fine, just to help her friend. That is a fucking unicorn. Now, it's rare to get a man to do that, but to find a woman that does that, she is a unicorn. So, these people exist. Keep in mind, these are generalities. I'm always talking generalities. So that's, uh, there is always the odd exception. But generally speaking, um, I think women tend to become a bit more able to do objective logic when they lose their looks and when life kicks them in the head. Um, like it or not, a very pretty woman, can make millions just by flashing a tit or half a tit, or not even flashing the full tit on like Instagram. Life is kind of easy for them. They don't have to like really correct their behavior that much. A beautiful woman can get away with they can literally get away with murder and do very little or even no time. So it is harder for them to learn the lessons. I was watching this. I don't know how it kind of started playing by itself. I don't know, like my YouTube thing started like thing. And what came up was this lawyer. It's weird, a lawyer that's got like sleeve tattoos or whatever, a divorce lawyer, talking about the unfairness of life for men and women. And he's like, man, I had a client who like he created a hedge fund and then he sold the hedge fund and he like made like 500 million and he married this girl that's like started sleeping around with other people and she's gonna divorce him. She's gonna get 200 million. She's gonna get 200 million. And I mean, do you know what this guy had to do to make 500 million? Do you know what she had to do? Be pretty and sleep with him for a while before she started cheating on him as well. And he's like, I mean, fucking hell, for 200 million, I'd sleep with him. It's just like, so. But you can understand that is reality. And so what incentive does a very pretty woman who's maybe even smart to have to correct herself or improve her character? There aren't that many incentives to do so. In fact, there are more incentives for her to be more selfish, more solipsistic, and more less empathetic. There are more incentives for her to behave that way than the other way. So it's just, but I've been saying since I'm 16, men have evolved. It's women's turn because, and like even things that I absolutely don't like men go their own way or men rights activists or whatever, like puas, all that stuff. It's a reaction to the situation, and there's going to be a percentage of women. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a very small percentage of women that realize they have to evolve and that do evolve and that will teach their daughters to evolve and be better. And that small percentage of women, along with the smallish but much bigger percentage of men that actually understand the concept of both being man as well as more evolved version of just a manly man. And I don't mean metrosexuals, by the way. Those guys, if we get enough of them, they will make the future. They will make the next, evolution in mankind, which will be more logical, more reasonable, and more compatible with each other, more supportive, and um, holistic in their relationship. Whether we make it or whether we go, Mouse Utopia way, who knows? Sam Wereb says, satanic Protestants founded our government, not our country. Columbus established our country. Dude, you can argue it whatever way you want, but you can see what's going on in your country, right? And you guys are also still allowing it to happen. France, Germany, you're not seeing this on the news, but those countries are literally gridlocked. Berlin and Paris are under siege. You can't get in or out of Paris right now because they've blocked off all the main arteries. You're not seeing it on the news because they're not reporting it. But in Europe, we're not that far from revolution. I still think it's going to take a while, but we're really not that far. In Brussels, they've surrounded the UN building, which with the EU building that control, where all the government for Europe is, and they're shooting fucking manure at it. They're overturning police cars. They're overturning police trucks that are trying to stop the situation with tractors, with forklifts. That's happening in Europe. It's not fucking happening in America. And I don't think it's going to happen in America. And for all that's going on in Texas, I think the whole Texas thing about, oh, we're sending people to the border, I think that's Freemasonry playing both sides of the coin. Because Abbott is a World Economic Forum guy. So what's going on there? I don't know. I'm not on the ground in Texas. I'm not up to speed with what really is going on in Texas. And I don't particularly care what's really going on in Europe, Berlin, or France either, because my attitude is different to all the stuff. It's like, I don't give a flying fuck if the other guys are, if there is a revolution and they overthrow the government, great. If there isn't, I'm not gonna, it's not gonna affect me personally because I'm trying to do something else. I'm 3 steps ahead of where those guys want to be. But Americans are not gonna do that. And like my Finnish friend, almost 10 years ago, me and the Finnish guy were the only guys saying, yeah, Americans are going on about the guns, the guns. When the federal government is going to start going door to door telling people, give me your guns, almost every American is going to give up their fucking guns. That's what's actually going to happen. And all the Americans were up in arms against us, telling us that's not going to be the case and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I hope me and the Finnish guys were wrong. But history and reality tells us that Europeans have a tendency to actually make war when shit hits the fan. And we don't have anywhere near the level of foreigners in our countries throughout Europe that you guys do. You've got a severe percentage of your population is not American by any means, and not even legal by any means. You're talking like 30, 40, even approaching 40. In some states, it's more than that. In some states, it's more than 50%. But overall, as a country, you're looking at about 25, 30% of foreigners that don't like you. And that if there is a civil war or whatever, they're going to create their own state in your country already. America's doomed. Europe's going to have some very bad times, but some nation in Europe may well be doomed. France may be one of them, by the way, because they've got one of the highest percentages of foreigners in there, and they've had for a long time. So France is going to have a problem. I don't think Italy will too much. I don't think, Germany is going to have a bit of a problem, but the Germans are well known for, finding drastic solutions that don't end well, but I think they've got a. I think England actually is going to be one of the more difficult places to return, let's say, to European standards. America is a shit show. I'm sure there are parts of whatever, like I said, Montana or buttfuck Appalachia, which are going to be fine, but the greater part of America is a mess. Okay, says Sweden is on the slide for sure. Yeah, Sweden is kind of done as well, I think. Quite a lot of those northern countries. Funnily enough, it's the Anglo-Saxon Teutonic, like Sweden, I don't know about Norway, but Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, England, Germany. It's those guys that have the biggest problem, and France, because they're French. But most of the Catholic countries, or even the Greeks, which are not necessarily Catholic, all the Serbians, all those guys, they've got other issues. I'm not saying they don't have issues, but they tend to be relatively nominally homogeneous, really. So Okay says, observe it like TV. Yes, absolutely. When you're looking at a gaggle of women talking, it's cool. Sam Wareham says he never set foot on the mainland, but his influence was profound, God-given. Yes, it was, because he was Catholic, and that influence has mostly remained in South America, not North America, because South America is prominently mostly Catholic, or nominally Catholic, Novus Ordo Catholic, but yeah. Uh, Sacrificial Lamb says, hello everyone, and okay says, the French will kick, that's assured. I don't know. That for all that the what did the Americans call the French? Cheese-eating surrender monkeys. For all that, I like to make fun of the French as much as the next guy. They do tend to band together. The French are a mixture of Catholicism and Protestantism in a very odd mix, which kind of take the worst of both sides. So, who was it that said that the Ukrainians take the worst of the Russians and the worst of the Polish, and that makes the Ukrainians? The French take the worst of Catholicism and the worst of Protestantism, and it makes the French. But the thing is, there are a lot of Catholic prophecies that say that France will burn and almost disappear, but it'll start the spark that will sort of liberate Europe from all the nonsensical crap that's going on, and that has been going on for a long time. Caleb says, so the US government enlists all the illegals, convinces them that the patriots are the enemy, and creates a new citizenry. Dude, you've already got a new citizenry. Your country is supposed to have English as the main language. You've got areas of your country where you have to speak Spanish, where the official government forms are in Spanish. There's a bunch. If I'm not wrong, I believe that there are states that have made it like so that an illegal can join the military to become legal. The illegals in your country can vote. It's a joke. You've got like 65 million other guys like that are not even like legal immigrants or whatever. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the States. I don't live in the States. I'm not particularly concerned, but it's not going to be good. I don't know what it is going to look like. I'd hate to make a prediction of any. All I can tell you is storm is coming. Like your cyclones that you guys keep building houses out of wood and like in cyclone paths. Why? I don't know why you do that. I wouldn't, but it's coming is all I can say. Okay says, I know they don't quit as much as the joke makes me laugh. They actually won a lot back in the day. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I do think that there are enclaves of Frenchmen that are gonna respond in some fashion. William says, more likely that the immigrants simply take the bits of land they want and evict everyone else. Yeah. My father said this many, many, many years ago, long before China was anything, where somebody said, oh, well, China could be a military threat. And he was like, what are you talking about? China has absolutely no wish or need to use the military to attack anyone. All they have to do is give those fuckers passports. The 2 billion of them, pretty much. Close enough. All the government has to do, yeah, we'll give you, it's a totalitarian sort of government where every aspect of your life is controlled. All they have to do is like, we give you a passport now, but you only go to North America. These 4 states. Guess what? There's more Chinese owning parts of California than there are Americans owning parts of California. Your population is about 330 million, I think. What if China, the Chinese government says, oh, we give you all passport, but only for North America. You get in there. Over the next 20 years, yeah, we send 50, 100 million Chinese. You think America is still going to be America? That's all they need to do. Give them passports. And the Chinese government can certainly fund the entrance into America that's even all legal. They don't need to. It's certainly cheaper to send them all to Mexico and then tell them, we give you $1,000, much money, $1,000. You go America, you go live there. And they do, and they will, because $1,000 for a Chinese guy, and all he has to do is cross a border that anybody can just walk across, and he's still got $1,000 when he gets to America. And you don't realize that in China, the average guy lives on like $1 like a month or something, you know. You give him $1,000, he's going to work 17 hours a day and sleep 2 hours a day, then study for the remaining 5 hours a day. And that's paradise for him compared to where he comes from. They can take over your country just by issuing them passports. Doesn't have to fire a single shot. And you won't fire a single shot, because by the time you realize it, too late. Anecdotal story, but absolutely true. You know, I've been to Canada a few times because I went to travel to train there with Vladimir or whatever. My sister went to Canada on a holiday. I get a text. She says, I think I got on the wrong plane. I think they sent me to China. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she like took a picture. And she was in the airport, you know, in Canada, like going through passport control or whatever. And it was a sea of like, you know, Chinese looking faces. And I mean, I realized that when I first got to Toronto as well. I was like, dude, there's a lot of like Chinese looking people here, you know? I didn't know that till I went there. And that's pretty much because they did get passports, and then, you know, they marry other Chinese people and they make more Chinese people. And you can say they're Canadians. You can call them Canadians. You know, they don't look like Canadians. They look like Chinese people. So it's up to you what you think of that. But I'm just saying, no bullets have to be fired for China to take over America. Canada and Australia are de facto Chinese colonies. Yeah, exactly true. I mean, I think Adam Piggott wrote a blog post not too long ago where he basically said, you know, Australia's done. Australia's was done. Australia's just going to be a Chinese colony. It can be nothing else. It is going to be nothing else. And he's right. And in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we're going to see a huge shift of populations from places like China and India and Africa into countries and geographic areas that you know, were traditionally Caucasian inhabited, whether it's Europe or North America. Australia's already gone. So if you're asking me, you know, 500 years from now, will the Kalergi plan have worked, and will we all be a slight shade of brown and ruled over by the people with the small hats? I don't know. Uh, I'm gonna do my best to see that my progeny continues and exists. Uh, and that's all I can do. I'm not particularly worried about it one way or the other, because it's in God's hands, and all I can do is what I can do, and I'm doing that. So the rest will be for the good man upstairs to figure out and have happen as he deems fit. Willie Ram says, I'm already noticing a shift in pop culture going east. Okay. You know, and again, I'm taking the approach of the old man with the horse story. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. When I was in Kazakhstan not too long ago, I saw an opera that was actually the opera set in Spain, but was originally written by a Frenchman and was performed by Kazakhstani people that, you know, look like Asian people. And it was a kind of surreal experience because I just thought, wow, I don't know, it was like watching kabuki, but not in the sense that it was good Japanese kabuki theater. Kabuki in the sense of like, what a facade. Is this what it'll be like 100 years from now? They'll play Vivaldi or whatever, but nobody will really know what Vivaldi was, and they'll have no appreciation at all of what the hell opera even was, because it'll be performed by Zulus or something that will have changed the words. And I thought, I didn't. I can understand the feeling of nostalgia or of loss, thinking that your whole culture, your whole people are disappearing, which may be the case or not. I don't know. Um, but it's like it's a fractal thing. It's like as if I were to feel nostalgic or like shed tears over the fact that I'm 54 now and my body doesn't react the same way it did when I was 24. I'm not even, I can get frustrated about it a little bit sometimes, but I'm not even upset about it. It's sort of like I can sense a shift in myself where eventually, by the time, hopefully, I live to be 105, but when I get to be 105, I'll be like, oh, I wonder what's on the other side of the threshold, I wonder what it'll be like after I die. What will that be like? I'll be curious about that. I'm not frightened by it. The only fear I'll have is like the people I'm leaving behind that I can't watch over anymore, but who knows? Maybe I can in ways maybe they're even better than the one that I have now, or the illusion that I have now. Who knows? Life is change. Constant change. So I'm doing what I think is best. I'm going to try and perpetuate my line as much as I can. I think I'm doing a pretty good effort considering I've had 3 kids in the last uh, four, not even 5 years, and I'm in my 50s. So I'm doing my part. you know, if you want to go to Starship Troopers, do you want to know more? Are you doing your part? I am. What are you doing? So, Willie Ram says, can't be worse to have Vlad and Chin, I guess he's saying C, manage this planet for a while. Yeah, who knows? 105. I'll have had enough before then. See, that's just because you're not trying hard enough, man. I sometimes started to interact a bit more with the people in the village just because I kind of realized that my fight with the brambles is kind of pointless. I need to approach it differently. So I'm regrouping and spending a bit more time, like just getting to know the people around me and so on. So when I go to this, there's a little coffee bar that's like members only type thing, and so I paid the $10 to be a members only and like meet up some guys now and then. I literally go in there for have a coffee when I'm tired, and that's about it. And so I'll spend maybe 5 minutes talking to the lady behind the bar or a couple of guys that are in there or whatever. But they invariably ask me questions because they're like a bit curious about the crazy bastard who is a danger to any truffle thieves or trespassers and whatever. And I'm trying to tone it down because I kind of know how people react to this shit. But then they ask me something about my life, like the most pedestrian questions, like, "Oh, so you're married? I see you've got a ring on your finger." And I'm like, this was a pretty lady at the bar, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm married." "Are you really married? That looks like a really big band." And I don't think it's a particularly big band. It's there you go. I I like it. I think it's. I wanted a consistent one because I hate this like thin little fucking, and it's my fingers are shaped so that it doesn't fall off easily. It takes a little bit of pushing, but I like it. I like my wedding band. It's there. You can see it up close. You know, I don't think there's anything weird about it. But most people, I didn't realize until the lady said that, because then I started looking at other guys, and it's like, yeah, they've got like those thin ones, which I don't like. And they're like, yeah, no, I just like it that way. And so they asked me, oh, so you're married? Yeah, yeah. My wife is English, and then it comes out that she's, I was married not in church like the other, and I make a point of explaining that I was married twice before, those ended up in divorces, and I've got 5 kids, and they're like, within a minute and a half of them asking me the most banal questions about my life, they're like, you can start to see they're like, huh? And the guys are like, man, dude, you've been busy. Like, what the hell is your life like? And then sometimes they'll try and go into another topic, and they're sort of like, so what work do you do? And what work did you do? And where did you grow up? And there's just never a like simple answer like, oh, I grew up the village over, and I worked in the butcher shop. I don't have an answer like that, and all their answers are like that. So I end up being like the freak that they don't know what to do with me. And the generic comment I get is like, yeah, your life has been too weird, too much. It's like, how do you, it's like, oh fuck, it's so. And my comment to that is like, yeah, it can be absolutely, my life can be an absolute like fucking nightmare sometimes, but I also get peaks from which almost no other man has seen the vista. And there's one bonus: I am literally never ever bored. So, if you've had enough, but 105, it's just because you're not trying hard enough, my friend. Now, 105, I plan to be if I'm still alive. I better not say that, but was it Vox said once, like, oh, one of the ways that one can die, if you can't die peacefully in your sleep at home or whatever in old age, then I'd rather it be like, with a lot of C4 dead men switch in a room packed with my enemies. It's like, yeah, I agree. So, and it's unlikely my enemies would come to me, so might have to go to them. You know how it is. It's like, so if if in another 50 years you read about a little old man that was just dressed in a trench coat with like no fingerprints because they were burnt off by acid, and naked under his trench coat, who eventually got done by a drone, and all he had on him was a really expensive sniper rifle and 1,000 rounds, of which he fired off about 890 before they got him. Well, have a drink on me. I'm just saying. I'm joking, of course. It's a joke. But yeah. Anyways, boys and no girls, I guess. If you've got any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, at about 3 a.m., I'm about to go for my few hours of bedtime. I'll give you guys another minute just in case. And do us a favor and do spread the blog and the videos around. I just actually, somebody sent me a comment about a video which, I don't want to lie to you, was number 145, No Salvation Out of the Catholic Church, which a lot of people actually watched back then, and it's a good video on my channel here to go and look at, because it wasn't a live stream, so it was like back when I had my little argument and I just talked about what it was. So it's not as long as my live stream, and it's much more compact, and I think the things I talk about are well presented. So Wade Wilson says, sniper are great. I'd be more partial to an RPG-7. Just not thinking big enough, man. Planes, planes, C4, a lot of it's C4. It's just, but yeah, we're of course talking about Traveller, right? Traveller's a funny game. Remember, like one game where basically I had a guy that essentially had all the skills to basically be a sniper, and we were trying to get the keys to the one spaceship that was on the planet, because it was a low-tech planet, and for whatever reason we got stuck there, and there was like one spaceship could like control the whole planet, because like the tech level was, they wouldn't be able to do anything against it. And there was the captain of the ship, or whatever, it wasn't our ship, was like going towards it, and was going somewhere. And now the whole point was like you're supposed to capture the captain because biometrics, he was the only guy that could open the spaceship. But like, I wasn't thinking about that. I was like, oh, how far is he? Oh, it's a long distance. Okay, but I got my ACR and a skill 2 and I made the roll. Doom, headshot, because I called it. Headshot, yep, high explosive, poof, dead. And everybody turned around, all the other players turn around and goes, nice going, idiot. How are we going to get inside the fucking spaceship now? We're going to get run over by these like troglodytes with clubs, you fucking moron. And I was like, ooh, oops, yeah. It's a good shot though. So YouTube is eating comments. I'm not sure. Woolly Ram says that YouTube is eating comments. I don't know, like to what, but I don't know if this on this video or on the 145 video, but yeah, maybe. You know how it goes. Or sometimes the comments have to be approved. I don't know. And I'm pretty. I'm good about approving the comments on my blog eventually. You know, I check it like at least maybe once a day or so. So comments on my blog, if they don't appear right away, they get approved. And if they never appear, it's probably because you've been banned for whatever stupidity. Go and read the rules if you want to know why. All right, guys, seems like that's about it for tonight. Thank you very much. God bless every single one of you. And I hope that my explanation of the female socio-sexual hierarchy was at least entertaining. More importantly, I hope it was somewhat useful. And have a good evening all. Good night.